Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, America. What is going on? Thank you Thank you so much for watching Mikasa Sukasa, and I am your host, Niko House. I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors, the Credit Surgeons. I know a lot of you are getting your tax returns in right now, and you have two options. You can blow that money on something crazy that you know you probably should not buy, or you can invest in yourself and invest in your future. Go ahead and visit thecreditsurgeons.com so that you can get your credit repaired affordably and at a very fast rate. So you can make sure, like I said, that you invest in your future. Once again, that's thecreditsurgeons.com. Also, for those of you who are on Steemit, you can find me at Niko House. Just go to www.steemit.com/A, like the @ button, and then Niko House. If you're on Facebook, make sure you join our Steemit Politics group. It's a very useful group. There we're going to be posting all types of information about from the Steemit community and bolstering up independent journalists and podcasters via that particular Steemit group that focus on politics, because there's not a lot of focus at this very moment on politics in Steemit right now. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and get started. Now, there has been a lot of developments in the last, maybe 2 weeks in regards to the Trump administration. Now, I'm not talking about the petty knick-knack, paddywhack, complain about everything that comes out of Trump's mouth type of developments, because, that's just kind of irrelevant to me. I feel like those are distractions from the mainstream media, which they usually are. I'm more concerned with the things that have been going on behind the scenes. Now, for the Trump supporters, this podcast is for you. This episode is for you. And it's an episode that I really hope you take seriously and understand this is not an insult. This is not me attacking you. It's not even really, in a lot of ways, it's not even me attacking Trump. This is just really a sad reality, I think, that we're living in. Because I've done several videos time and time again regarding just the deep state and how the deep state seems to always prevail no matter who's in charge. But there is kind of a consistent theme. The people who the deep state prevail over usually have a long track record that could be held against them. And unfortunately, no matter whether you want to believe it or not, if you're Christian, I'm sorry, I don't know why y'all love Trump that much. It's kind of weird. But if you think that Trump doesn't have a track record that could be used to anybody's advantage, let alone the deep state, but to anybody's advantage, you are mistaken. The fact is, he does have a history with Jeffrey Epstein. He does have a history with the Clintons. He does have a history of corruption. He has a history of sexual harassment and sexual abuse cases. Not necessarily the cases that came out as a result of David Brock's super PAC attempting to pay off people to say that they were harassed by Trump. I'm talking about legitimate cases, people. I'm talking about things that most of us probably don't know about, because he's a billionaire. And in the reality of the situation is, unfortunately, there is no such thing as an innocent billionaire. You can't be. Not in this world, not in the modern era. So with that being said, we really need to have the conversation about Trump supporters now holding Donald Trump accountable, because you all, as you should, expect neoliberals to hold Hillary accountable. You expect the left to hold Hillary accountable. Once again, as you should, I expect the left to hold Hillary accountable as well. And even still, there are a lot of people who say that progressives should hold Bernie accountable. And I personally hold him accountable when necessary. I feel like a lot of what he does is strategy based off of his consistency. But even still, when he's wrong, like with the white helmet situation in Syria, I still had to do a video holding him accountable there, once again, as we should. However, what you rarely, if ever, see, and if you see it, I'd be happy to know about it. You don't see Trump supporters holding Trump accountable. Everything he does, they have an excuse for. They have a some kind of rationality for it. They think it's a chess game. Trump is not a chess player. He's a good businessman in the sense that he knows how to finesse the system. But he's not a chess player. He's just not the kind of guy he is. He's more of a brute force. This is coming from someone who knows personally people involved with working for him, with being engaged in a huge lawsuit against him. The guy uses brute force to try to get his way. He's not a finesser. So I want to see because think about it. You all say you want change. You want to put America first. I believe in putting the human race first. But hey, if you think that America first is your mantra, then you are more than welcome to feel that way, as long as you are not saying that in a way that's exclusionary because of people or races or colors or ethnicities that you do not like. That's a different discussion. But if you're just saying that because you want to make sure that the citizens that you feel a personal relationship to are protected and, in every way, economically and otherwise, then whatever, that's your prerogative. But if you say that, then you have to be able to hold him accountable. Because when Bernie Sanders gets into office in 2020, which I hate to break it to y'all, but he is going to win 2020. You should listen to my podcast about that and read my Medium article if you have any questions. But when he gets into office, yeah, half the battle is going to be supporting things that he says, but the other half of the battle is going to be holding not only Bernie Sanders accountable for things that he may have had a misstep on, but holding his administration accountable, right? Which we don't see happening with the Trump fans. We don't see it. What I would also like to see going forward is them holding their legislature accountable. Remember, you all were lambasting the Republican legislature, the Republican establishment, the entire election. In fact, you say that's why you all love Trump so much, right? Because he is supposedly not the establishment. That is even why myself was partially okay with Trump winning the election, because at the end of the day, the establishment hates the guy because of, who he is. He just doesn't care about what anybody else thinks or wants, but he does care about his brand. The issue with that is that we don't see the Trump supporters now holding the Republican establishment accountable. Now they just make excuses, and they tie everything that the Republican establishment does right back to Donald J. Trump, which is not the case. But they only do that when it's convenient for them, which is what makes me a little bit upset, because they won't do it, for example, like what we're seeing, like what we saw with DACA, with the shutdown. They didn't tie those two things together. I tell people, like, okay, DACA isn't getting passed, which I'll touch on a little bit more later. But I said DACA isn't getting passed or getting removed. It's not at all. But all of a sudden, they still want to say that Trump is putting America first. But they didn't tie that failure of repealing DACA. They just said, oh, that's the Congress. They caused that shutdown. Or they blamed it on the Democrats, which is something establishment Republicans do. They don't talk about the fact that, there's like a lot of stuff, but when he does something that they perceive as good, it's Trump. When they thought the Wall Street was booming, it was all Trump. And it's not necessarily the case. It is partially him, but I'll explain that a little bit too. It was Trump. Okay, well, what's going to happen whenever? Well, let's go ahead and get into it then. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay? So, I hate to tell y'all, but the deep state has your guy by the balls. And you need to be, like I said, this is me. We call this real spiel. Okay? This isn't an insult to anybody at all. But this is me confronting reality, and I hope that you take it as that and don't take it as anything more than that. Because you all know I'm about progression and moving forward. I'm a solution-based thinker. I don't critique merely for the sake of critiquing. I critique so that we can find a solution together and move forward with it. But the deep state has your guy by the balls, and that's putting it nicely. If you all recall, for my YouTubers, for my YouTube people, I did an episode of Mikasa Tsukasa addressing Henry Kissinger's meeting with Donald J. Trump, Mr. President. What he said in the meeting, I bullshit you not. And if you can look up the video, you can look it up on Facebook. Henry Kissinger literally said, I'm meeting with Trump so that we can establish a new world order. Like, for the first time, Alex Jones, he was going off the rails about it. And I'm not an Alex Jones fan by any means, but he was going off the rails about it, and I was kind of right there with him. I was like, yo, he just said this shit in broad daylight. Henry Kissinger is a war criminal. He is an evil human being. He worked with Nazis. That is not an exaggeration. Okay? Not even a little bit. And yet, why would Trump meet with Henry fucking Kissinger? And knowing what we know about his past, about his hand in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Yemen, in Syria, in Libya, in Turkey. I think in Hungary too. No, Hungary was George Soros, I think. But they probably worked together, let's be honest, right? Henry Kissinger wants a one world government. That is antithetical to what Trump supporters say they stand for. You can't be America first, nationalists, et cetera, and then just totally ignore when a guy says, hey, I want one world government. Like, you can't. You can't ignore the guy. You say Trump is fighting the deep state, and he invited the deep state right through his front door. And then you thought there was nothing going to come of that? So let's talk about that. Many of you may not know. I talked about this in a previous episode. But Trump's administration, specifically Rex Tillerson, has announced that they are going to put troops indefinitely in Syria with the ultimate goal of regime change. They are going to take him out. This should be a little problematic for all of you, because what that shows is a pattern that we should be terrified of, because it demonstrates that there is an ultimate goal that they are going to absolutely achieve unless we confront it, no matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican in office. No matter if it's your favorite candidate or your least favorite candidate, you should be addressing this. You should be holding, especially if it is your favorite candidate. I feel like we have a larger responsibility to do so. Just like as I as a black man, if I see John R. Lewis or Sean King or anybody, if I see them, what we call in the black community, cooning for the establishment, cooning for the elite, Uncle Tomming, if you're not familiar with cooning, but Uncle Tomming, like selling us out, like I did with the African American caucus, congressional caucus. I did like an hour-long video on that. How disgusted I was that the black community let someone as good as Bernie Sanders fly by when this guy was chained to a black woman. Like, I can't really say that enough. Like, he was chained to a black woman so that she could not be taken to jail during the civil rights movement. But if it's so as a black man, I'm extra critical of black people, especially because I know it can directly affect our rights, and I know how it may look to others outside of our community. So as a progressive, I am extra critical of progressives, and as a leftist, I am extra critical of the left. Well, I wouldn't say I'm a leftist. I'm probably like a common sensist. I should do a book about being common sense progressive, whatever that means. That's what the book is for. I'll define it then. Don't worry about that. But anyway, So as a Trump supporter, I mean, I asked the same of Hillary supporters. We never get that. But you all claim that you are a more common sense, kind of a much more grounded electorate than the Hillary supporters. So this is your time to show that. This is your time to say, hey, we need to hold this woman accountable. This man accountable, because this is going to ultimately affect everything that we thought was going to happen. Let's talk about the fact that Trump is renegotiating TPP. As you all probably know by now. Actually, no, I doubt it because nobody has talked about it. This man has said that he wants to renegotiate it so it's quote unquote better for America. Now, understand something. TPP is not good for the United States of America. It's good for the GDP, and in the long term it won't be, but it's good for the GDP, quote unquote. But it's horrible for the working class. This has been established by everybody. You know what was bad because, the Republicans, by and large, just totally shut down everything that that Obama did. And then the Democrats totally supported everything that he created. Now, on with TPP, it was split down the middle. Half Republicans were like, what the hell? Hell no. And then half the Democrats were like, what the hell? Hell no. And then half the Republicans were like, you know what, Obama? This is something we can get behind. The establishment ones. And then the other half of the Democrats was like, yeah, okay, this is a no-brainer. Of course we're going to do it. Trump, one of the few good things that he achieved was that he pulled us out of TPP. However, that is not necessarily the case right now. He's looking for a way to get us back in because let's see what date they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be meeting in Chile at the end of this month, actually, I believe. I want to give you all an exact date so we know. It's called TPP 11, by the way. Actually, I think they haven't announced the date because when Trump went to go meet about the TPP to negotiate it, I think they might have changed it. So, but yeah, he got convinced by a Republican that we're losing out. Mind you, I mean, this is just one of the guys, but mind you, losing out on what? Nobody is ever specific about what we're losing, quote unquote, losing out on. Except for the ability to control other nations and for the lack of the ability to control what happens in our country in regards to the economics. This, for those of you who don't know, I can do it. I can literally do a whole video on TPP, but the gist of it is that TPP puts the control of the economy of a particular nation in the hands of the corporations that are incorporated there, or that even have businesses. They don't have to be incorporated. They just have to have an address. You just have to do some type of business with that nation. They know that. We knew that. That's why we pulled out. That's what, like I said, one of the few things Trump did. The other thing that I love that Trump did was pull out of Syria. Look at what happened. Everything that he is doing is being reversed clearly by the deep state. All of a sudden, all these economists and all these businessmen said that we're losing out if we don't join TPP, which is simply not true. They probably dangled a stock market thing in front of them, and it's fucked up because now that they've mentioned TPP, because the stock market was doing fantastic, but now that they've mentioned TPP, if Trump ultimately announces that he's going to pull out permanently, the stocks will drop. It's not going to be pretty. He should have just never brought it back up. He should have left well enough alone. The TPP would not have done well without America involved. It would have done okay. We could have always went back and forced them to renegotiate because, of course, they want our corporations involved. But now we're speaking from a position of weakness because he said, this is from by the way, the Japan Times. They said that the Trump is scared to lose out. So now he's speaking from a position of weakness. Yeah, Clearly, he wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, right? That's some diplomacy. You can't go to it from a position of weakness and say, hey, if you make this work for us a little bit better, then we'll do it. It's like, yeah, but you're talking because you're worried that you're gonna lose out. So you already think that this could potentially be better for your country. So probably not, but we'll see what we can do. This is another example of how Trump has failed in giving into the deep state. Just look at DACA. For some people, they think that they got their wall. First of all, also that just off of kind of like not really that important to me, but the wall situation, no, you're not. You might get the wall. You're paying for it though. So, and you don't want to hold him accountable for that, but you're paying for it. And I don't see nobody talking about that. Why not? Hold your man accountable. Hold your man accountable. If you listen to me, am I not always holding Hillary Clinton accountable? I'm always holding the left accountable. Progressives, journalists, hell, like literally, I hold everybody. I'm a black man. Sean King talks about black issues, but when he's jiving it up for the establishment, I'm the first one to call them out on it. TYT, they're quote unquote progressives. I will call them out on their shit. You can check my resume of calling people out. I probably don't have as many fans as I should have, because I damn sure have a really bad habit of calling everybody out. But I don't even like saying calling it out, because it's just holding people accountable. You want to make sure that your leaders know that you're watching. That you're your influencers, the shakers and the movers of the world. You want them to know that you're watching. But he doesn't see a negative. It's just MAGA, 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 make America great, America first, America first. Like, no, you're paying for that wall. And he's actually going to end up commandeering American lands to do it now. So there was and that was already going to be a plan. Actually, Obama talked about that, believe it or not. That's the exact same plan Obama had, in case you didn't know. You think I'm exaggerating? Look it up. Look up the video. Yeah, the quote, saying it during a debate. So you might get the wall. You might get it, but you're paying for it. It's nothing like what was promised, okay? On top of that, you're not getting rid of DACA. DACA's here to stay. Israel has spoken. BB, I call him baby BB, Trump's best friend, new butt buddy, and AIPAC do not want DACA gone. Didn't y'all find it really suspicious that 7 months ago, he was going to unilaterally get rid of DACA? He was just screaming about the protesters and all that stuff. Oh, but what he didn't tell y'all about was when the Jewish protesters came out and all the Jewish, like Israeli Jewish support groups came out. They have a lot of domestic interests here. They do not want to make the process difficult. If someone, for example, gets pregnant and has a child here on their work visa, understand that if they don't have DACA, because they're not citizens. Just because you're born here on the visa doesn't mean you're specifically a temporary work visa doesn't mean you're a citizen. And that's not necessarily. Israel's situation is kind of complex, by the way, but I'm just giving you like a short rendition of how that could go. If the person that is if the person that you had the child with is not an American, then it does not necessarily mean that they are an American child. You can be born in America and still not be considered an American as an American citizen. DACA makes sure that those kids are not affected in case they have they can get extensions, they can do a lot. Maybe you brought your child over here from Israel temporarily and your child is in school. What happens next? Because, yeah, you can get a student visa But what if you didn't qualify for the student visa? DACA will allow you to do so. So there's a lot of things that the Israel community does not want to change at all. DACA is one of them. AIPAC has spoken about this. So you're not getting rid of DACA. So much for the American First thing. He is toying with y'all. That's why he included the wall, to make it seem like, yeah, we're still gonna give y'all what y'all want. And if I include the wall, if I talk about this wall, then maybe they'll forget that I'm not getting rid of DACA. He kind of failed y'all on Obamacare as well. He didn't really get rid of it. He did some things that actually helped poor people, so that was kind of good. He screwed y'all royally on the tax bill. And that will, okay. So let me double back. The tax bill is something that is written by the Republican legislature. So I'm not going to put that on Trump. He signed it, but it's written by the Republican legislature. Of course he's going to sign it. But that is not, you don't want, trust me when I say in a few years, you're not going to want good, because look what happened. We've seen declines in jobs in every industry. Specifically, I'm sure you heard about Carrier, that situation right now. He promised to expand, and instead, or he promised to help expand Carrier and employees that work in unions in general. And he did not. Hundreds and hundreds of people from just that one company got laid off. Thousands more across the board. Right after the tax bill got passed, by the way. Once again, if you're taking that as an attack, if you're taking this as an attack on your values or your ideology, you're mistaken. You're not listening. This is me telling you, hold your candidate, hold your politician accountable as you expect everyone else to do the same for theirs. Just because you call a spade does not mean that you are a bad person. It doesn't mean that you don't believe in the thing that you believe in. And for those who swear to God that Bernie is the worst ever, because I know for a fact, because I can say this, Bernie has a strategy. I can say this because I've worked for the man. I've worked for the campaign. I've talked to his wife. I've talked to the people that work around him and for him. He's not perfect, but he has a legitimate strategy in his approach right now, which I address in my article. Check it out if you haven't. However, if you truly believe that Trump has if you think that Bernie doesn't have a strategy, that he's just sheep herding, he's just doing X, Y, Z, because he's not. He doesn't sheep herd like that. I don't know if you know what the definition of that is, but he's the worst sheep herder in history if that's the case. But if you can't even fathom the possibility of Bernie Sanders having a plan just because you want to believe that Trump is the populist candidate of America's choice, then how could you possibly think that Donald Trump has a plan when, like I said, he doesn't do 3D chess? He's brute force, has always been. That's why a lot of y'all love him. He's a bully. Like, it is what it is. Don't be naive. Don't get played. Because I don't want Trump to win in 2020, but do you? You have to let him know that you are legitimately paying attention. Not just arguing against CNN. Not just arguing against the Democrats. Not just arguing against MSNBC and Rachel Maddow and Joanne Reed. Not just arguing against them, but actually paying attention to his policies and legitimately reading into how it affects your life. And if he's upholding the values that he promised you, upholding the values that you said you were voting for. And I'm telling you, he is not. Thank you all so much for listening. Once again, if you are on Facebook, follow that Steam It group, Steam It Politics. And follow me on Twitter if you have not already, at Niko, CSF B. So that's C as in Charlie, S as in Sam, F as in Frank, B as in Bravissimo. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, find your balance. Peace.